we have breaking news in Dallas. The Cowboys moving on without Jason Garrett as head coach. The move widely speculated since the end of the season. 4 days ago, perhaps as far back as midseason, maybe even last February when Garrett didn't receive a contract extension, comes very much on owner Jerry Jones' timetable. Garrett, 9.5 seasons in charge in Dallas, just 2 playoff wins, 4 8-8 seasons. Ed Werder, first on the story, first now on SportsCenter. And Ed, this sort of the ending, it was expected, I guess, but do we know what tipped things to the point we finally got a decision?
Well, John, I've just been told tonight that Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones have moved obviously very slowly and with an abundance of care and respect for Jason Garrett, with whom they have a long history as a backup quarterback, assistant coach, and head coach for nearly a decade. And now I'm told that that phase has been completed and will conclude soon, and that the result is that Garrett's not part of the organization beyond his expiring contract. And so the next phase will involve the candidate interviews, and that should begin quickly hereafter. I know this. Last night, the Jones family had a meeting about Garrett's future that produced absolutely no resolution. But now it does seem that we finally have one that seems sensible, considering that Garrett, as you mentioned, was forced to work the final year of his contract, and he failed to meet the established criteria for his return. And, the Cowboys finished 8-8. They played in an exceptionally weak division. They had an abundance of talent on their football team, and 8-8 was the 4th time that Jason Garrett produced such a record, and only Jeff Fisher has done so more. And I think one thing people should know regarding the Cowboys' deliberate and often confusing process here this week is that Jerry and Stephen Jones would not be operating in this manner if they had any indication that they were risking head coaching candidates that they most desire to other teams.
So really, in this case, it boils down more to relationships than results in the delay. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's totally about that. I think there was some conflict about what produced the 8-8 result this year that they clearly did not expect for a team that, in training camp, Stephen Jones told us publicly they thought this was the best team and the best roster that they had since they won Super Bowls in the 90s. And they very specifically said that they deliberately did not renew Jason Garrett's contract or extend him, that he was going to have to prove his value to the organization, and that their expectation was to take the next step, which everybody interpreted to mean an NFC championship game at minimum.
All right, next coach. Names might be premature, but why will the next head coach be a unique hire for this franchise?
Well, I think one of the unique things, and they haven't. How negotiable is Jerry Jones on his involvement as owner? And I think you could make the argument that this hire needs to be initiated with Executive Vice President Stephen Jones, his son being the lead person, because he's the one who's most likely to run the family franchise and control the daily operation, long term. And he's been, very influential in a lot of big decisions, releasing Terrell Owens, refusing to allow Jerry to draft Johnny Manziel over Zach Martin. And I don't know exactly what their list is, but I know that in the time I've covered the Cowboys, that Jerry has often claimed the Cowboys can have the best there is in coaching, and yet it seems that's only been true twice, Jimmy Johnson and Bill Parcells. And one of the reasons for that is the role that he's had as the owner and the general manager, and the other is that he has seldom believed that it's necessary to pay big money to head coaches. Again, Johnson and Parcells are the exception. So is Jerry under enough pressure now, John, to make another exception? Because some of the people I believe to be on their list, such as Urban Meyer and Lincoln Riley and Dan Mullen, Josh McDaniels, they are not going to come to Dallas cheaply.
Ed Werder from Dallas, the end of a decade-long run for Jason Garrett as head coach. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, John.
So when it boiled down this season, Garrett and the Cowboys just could not win close games. They went 1-6 in one-score games during the regular season. Only team that had a worse record will also be picking number 1 in the draft. That's the Bengals, who were 0-8. As you see, all the teams on that really poor seasons. Cowboys much more expected. Again, Bengals 0-8. That'll get you the top draft pick.